Hello. Here we are. I hope. Control panel looks under control. Does my voice sound hysterical? Yes, these buttons and the clickers do drive me to hysteria. His name is Beattie. John Beattie, International Director of the British People's League, bringing you today, May 22nd, 2014, the Dinosaur News. Dinosaur News produced by the British People's League, BritishPeoplesLeague.com. Well, I hope you're fine today. I think I'm fine. It's just digging up news about situations for white people around the globe. Can be depressing. And the European Union election crap doesn't mean a damn thing as far as this boy is concerned. What they call nationalist elections or whatever. I prefer the word patriot. We of the British People's League prefer the word patriots. And the word nationalist leans a lot to the stuff from the Second World War. But patriotism, we're talking about blood and soil and our peoples, of course. I suppose today's topic is gloomily entitled "A State of Siege for Whites, for Boers in particular in South Africa." Those who follow these YouTubes carefully, well, we know we're building up a subscriber list. We're over 30 now, and we're proud of that. These are people, of course, who decided, hey, I want that video of the British People's League Dinosaur News sent to my address, my email address, automatically as soon as the video is posted. So those kind of people, of course, are tuned in seriously. And the followers on our blind list will know that we had talked last couple of weeks, about giving more attention to the plight of the Boer peoples in South Africa, because they are the litmus test, the image, the focus on the whites of South Africa is the future for the whites around the globe. It's not hysteria. I mean, this boy in 1965 was raving in a public park in Toronto that what multiculturalism would do to the city that used to be white, bright, and beautiful. And sure enough, Toronto, I can't even find the words to describe it, pathetic, multicultural hellhole. And the liberal, penthouse liberals go about their business scribbling in the daily papers how wonderful everything is while they escape to their guarded communities and their penthouse socialists. Now, as far as South Africa goes, the President of the African National Congress, the ruling government of the Republic of South Africa, now is facing corruption charges. At the same time, they're going to change the Constitution to allow more land grabs on the remaining whites that there are. Now, there are so many organizations standing up for Boers, and there are many, and that's the good news. But this boy, it was just me doing the documentation and investigations and so on, so we really can't hook on to all of the good work of all of the various Boer associations and groups scattered wherever Boers have gone in exile, and of course those who are sticking it out in their homeland. So we're sort of sticking to a couple of outlets on John Beattie's Facebook. So you click in the right column on BritishPeoplesLeague.com, and as I said in the previous video, you'll see Claudia Bryan, who is doing a lot of personal work for the Boers in Britain. And then, right in the tip of South Africa, right there, reporting to us direct. SA Farm Watch, South Africa Farm Watch. When you Google, make sure you put the SA in there for South Africa. SA Farm Watch. And we're getting reports from them almost daily now. In a way, I feel we're interfering with their day-to-day jobs, but they want the word out. They're very proud at this SA Farm Watch. They're very confident that they can handle come what may. Where the SA Farm Watch people are located is in the Limpopo, if I'm pronouncing it properly, Limpopo province, closest to the old Rhodesia border at the top corner of South Africa. And of course the word Limpopo, people who have followed what's happened over the years in the continent of Africa, in particular South Africa, and going back to Rhodesian days in the 1970s, the Limpopo River really rings bells with this boy. I used to read a paper out of white South Africa called the South African Digest years ago. There were Rhodesian viewpoints and reports as well. And Limpopo was a key word that always stuck in my mind, as that was a focal point of the brush war to stop multi-cults from pouring in armed to the teeth to slaughter white Rhodesians in the brush war. But the Rhodesian white troops held up very, very well. It's just when the appeasers of the white South African government back then more or less turned Rhodesia over to the wolves to bide time, and hopefully South Africa could survive. Well, if it wasn't for people handling this South Africa Farm Watch and equal parallel organizations, not taking away any highlights there, but I just can't report on everybody, can I? They're holding their own, but as they pointed out to me, the statistics in Wikipedia are way off. There are now only about 3 million whites in a population of about 50 million multicultural. What shocked me was when I looked at Wikipedia, the map where the color charts are showing white areas, and there are very few, Johannesburg, Pretoria. And then as far as out in the hinterland goes, away up the Limpopo, I think a river is also called Limpopo, but regardless, that tip of South Africa, there's a chunk on the color chart showing a chunk of whites up there. And that's where our friends are, on the edges. They're calmer than I am, and they're living right amongst it. I'm just shocked. As I say, I've been ranting and raving warnings for most of my entire life. And, well, I feel like Churchill a little bit, as he warned about the Soviet Union that finally collapsed, but he warned. People wouldn't listen. I'm not going to keep dwelling back to America about white listeners there, because I've given up on with all the infighting in America. So they'll come through with something. AMRON, American Renaissance, is the most intelligent of the groups down there. But I done with America, okay? We're going to stick to our British People's League and our friends with Candor League, and now our friends in Boerland, South Africa Farm Watch. The blacks, figures passed on to me, 60 million in South Africa. Illegal blacks, 10.6 million. Illegal Chinese, 400,000. Illegal Pakistanis, 400,000. And the SA Farm Watch reports catching illegals every day crossing the borders. Well, I guess they'd have to be crossing from Mugabe land. I hate to even use the word Rhodesia when you're talking about these people, when we all knew how beautiful it was. I sometimes in the middle of a show think of another item that's pretty spiffy. I'm going to ask you to indulge while okay, I'll get it for you next show. It's quite a camping book on Rhodesia, put out in the 1950s. It'll look good on the screen here. I'll have it for the next show, the good old days. But the South Africa Farm Watch people are confident they can hold off whatever, come hell what may. I sure as heck couldn't. I have that spirit of optimism. Wow. And as I said, we're going to pronounce Boer activity and farm safety issues for Boers in South Africa as a priority for the British People's League from now on. Yes, and it jumped our viewership as well since we've been talking about Boers, and I'm sure patriotic Boers living in the United Kingdom and others are clicking in as a result of our attention given to the Boers lately. Again, the views on YouTube go up and down like a yo-yo. Some days they astound me and they might be getting accurate, and then there's certain shows I know damn well that we've had our list of subscribers are blind people. And I'm told that just a click from anywhere in the world, a click on YouTube, has to show up on the viewership. Well, baloney, it isn't. But you know, one of the shows on the Boer situation did show up to 53 as a starter. Now that's just the visible. We're not talking about the invisible. So I'm not going to worry about it, but I'm just letting you folks know, please don't go by the viewerships as to whether we're growing. Whether we're growing or not, the fact is, I'm proud that the British People's League based here in Canada is speaking up for the Boer peoples. An outpost in South Africa. It's incredible. And without the whites in South Africa, it would be Mugabe land. It would just be back to nothing. There would be no civilization. We all know that. And the dark cities in Britain show you what's going on in the rest of the white world. From the optimistic side, in an establishment situation, last month I plugged Stephen Harper, the Prime Minister of Canada. His colors are coming through good, white and bright and beautiful. As I've said many times, you know, bringing back Royal Inland Air Force, Royal Canadian Air Force, Royal Canadian Navy, appointing 100 judges, only 3 of whom were multi-cults. So now finally the left-wing verbal knives are out for Harper. Winnipeg professor is starting the gate for the race, stating that Harper is shockingly pro-monarchist and pro-military defense. Well, that's how Canada was founded. Get with the program, buddy. We're still here. We ain't going anywhere. As those proud people of South Africa Farm Watch can look upon the millions that are outnumbered and stand there and say, we're not going anywhere and we're going to hang on. Well, that's exactly what we're saying here. But those Boers are giving us the example of guts. Their example has to be a pusher to push white patriots to get something organized, an international network of white cell structures. Party time's over. It was over a long time ago. And those who don't know and don't care by now, well, you just run along and educate your neighbor all you like. We're talking to those who already know the score, and there are hundreds of thousands who already know the score. And you might be able to draw them back into our camps. They wandered off. Get them back into our choir, our overall choir, by passing on a link to these videos. to those who may once again re-enter the ranks of patriots, those of British stock and our European cousins, and especially our Boer friends. It's not as if it's totally new. As I said, in 1978, I had a broadcast going over what was called the Pioneer of a former broadcast. It was a Bell Canada's Codaphone machine where you could leave a message for 3 minutes. So I used that as a broadcast, broadcasting help for Rhodesia. I even spoke with a ranking officer in the Rhodesian Armed Forces when they were being invaded by the multi-cult mob from South Africa, etc. So it's not as if I just discovered Rhodesia and South Africa. I must admit I've refound their situation in that, well, I really thought their own organizations would be doing enough for them, but I don't think that's enough, because the enemy, the opposition, whisper, well, that's just them speaking for their own little networks, etc. So we've got to work together as cousins. That Limpopo province, to me, is wow, it's a test ground. You just look it up, Google it, South Africa, Republic of South Africa, and Limpopo province. But especially get the color chart to show where the colors are. And the whites gathered up there. And boy, for me, looking at it, looked like the middle of nowhere, but there's proud people up there with beautiful farmland. But you know, that's the state. Annihilation is what the multicults are trying to do to the whites of South Africa and whites around the globe. It's a warning to us, a warning what's going on down there. And as I said at the beginning of the show, the South African government are going to change the constitution, 2/3 majority, blah, blah, the usual crap with democracy, and then do more land grabbing. They're killing the goose that lays the golden eggs. To get rid of the white people in South Africa is just a total collapse, but they don't care. Live for today. And unfortunately, I have to say that for a lot of white people too. Live for today. Our own families. We got to be more harsh, you know. We've got to take a stand, even against our own families. Those who know the score. Your new families wait for you in the different patriotic blogs, patriotic programs around the globe. And you can get in touch and meet new people, new family, if you will. Because we're all in the same boat. Our families are terrified. It's disgusting, the cowardice. Who do they think built Western civilization? Santa Claus? Santa Claus happened to be white. So a lot of white helpers. That's the message for today. Things have got to happen. Build on the cell structure. The cell structure is the key for our race's survival on this planet. Networking with our friends in the Boer nation, networking with our cell structures that have to be set up as well in Britain, yes, here in Canada, Australia, New Zealand. Okay, we'll be at you next time. Thanks for tuning in to the Dinosaur News, brought to you by BritishPeoplesLeague.com. Take care of yourself. Bye for now.